next thing we're going to do with bar graphs, uh, in the previous video, we took raw data and made it into a graph. Now we're going to do the reverse of looking at a graph and extracting raw data from it. So here's a graph of the coffee habits of students. Again, these may be a little hard for me to read. So this says number of students, and this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're polling a group of students in a class maybe and asking how many people drink how many cups of coffee a day. So across here is coffee, cups of coffee per day. And again, you might have trouble reading these, so I'll make it a little bigger. So this is how many cups of coffee people in this class are drinking per day. So remember how to read the graph. If I look at this particular one, this says 4 people drink 2 cups of coffee a day in this particular group of people. Okay, so if we want to list out the individual student data using the graph, we can just extract it in the same way that we built the graph before. So we're going to list out the categories. So the category of 0 cups of coffee, there was 1 student. So I'm listing 1, 0, because that's how many people drank 0 cups. 1 cup of coffee, there were 3 people that did that. So here are the 3 people who drank 1 cup of coffee. 2 cups of coffee, 4 people. So there were 4 people that did 2 cups of coffee. 3 cups of coffee there were 2 of, so we do like this. 4 there was 1. 5 there were 2. There was 1 person that drank 6 cups of coffee. So all we did was do the opposite of building a graph, pulled the data out of this graph. So then once we do that, we can figure out things about it, just like we've done in the past with sets of data. We can figure out things like mean, median, and mode. So here's our raw data. That's just the same raw data that I listed out in the previous slide. So if we want to figure out the median, remember the median is the middle of a set of ordered data. Well, it's already ordered the way we have it written out. So we have to count how many numbers there are so we can figure out where to find the middle. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 pieces of data. That means we're going in between the 7th and 8th piece of data. So 4, 5, 6, 7. So our median is halfway between those two. Well, that's easy in this case. Halfway between 2 and 2 is 2. So our median is 2. Now remember, if those weren't the same number, you would find the midpoint between the two numbers by adding them together and dividing by 2. So mode, remember, means the one that shows up the most often. So you look at this list and just look for which one shows up the most often. Well, the one that shows up the most often is 2, so that's the mode. Now, this is our raw data again. If we want to find the mean, you remember how from the last module about how to find the mean. You add all the numbers, the raw numbers up, and divide by the number of numbers. And so when I did that on my calculator, it came out with 2.6. But remember, that number doesn't have any meaning unless we put units on it. So what were all these things that we were working on? These are all cups of coffee per day. So the mean for the class was 2.6 cups of coffee per day. Now, the neat thing about bar graphs is the mode in particular, there's a quicker way to find the mode. We didn't have to extract all that data, list it in order, and then count them, because think about what the mode is saying. The mode is the data that shows up the most often. That means the one that has the largest number of that number. Well, if you look at a bar graph, all you have to do to pick out the mode is pick out the tallest bar. So if there isn't the tallest bar, if they're all the same height, then there's no mode. If, like in this case, there's one bar that's taller than all the others, that's the mode. And so that's 2, which is what we found when we looked at it the other way. And remember, if you had 2 bars that were higher than all the other ones but the same as each other, then that would just mean you had 2 different modes, and you would list both of those. So, and there is a quicker, I'm not sure this is really quicker, but when you, if you had really large numbers, a quicker way to calculate the mean, instead of adding them all together, would be to multiply. So on 1 cup of coffee, there were 3 students that drank that number of cups, and so I could, instead of writing 1 plus 1 plus 1, I could do 3 times 1, and I could continue doing that and still divide by 14 at the end. Again, that's more something you would use if you were dealing with a very large graph with large numbers and you didn't want to have to add them